Hello, welcome to the Right Click Save podcast. I'm as always your host, Calcio. Joining me today is Jimmy T. How are you doing, Big Jim?
Yeah, really well. Just on the, wind up at the moment before we go to NFT NYC, trying to get all our stuff sorted and ready and packaged when we're out there. But no, having a good time, enjoying the lovely bear market that we're all in at the moment.
It's been a fun one so far. I'm actually really pleased to introduce our guest today as well, who of course is EfDot. How are you today, EfDot?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. How you guys doing?
Yeah, really good. And you're welcome, buddy.
I'm good. So just to get straight into it really, EfDot, how have you been finding the current market situation that we're in at the moment?
Oh, it's a great time. Having a lot of fun. But seriously, it's been a shock to the system for a lot of people in terms of what can happen in a short time. And selling art before NFTs and now selling art via NFTs is a different game. And you never know how things can change when you're valuing things in crypto. So I'm adjusting some things, but at the same time, I'm just pushing forward on my art like I always do. Art doesn't stop in a bear market. We keep creating, we keep pushing our ideas. And if anything, now is a time to take your time and build even better, greater projects and things, because there's no pressure to get it out quickly right now when we're in this kind of climate.
Absolutely. We're back in that, we like to call the build market, where everyone's goes back to building and less on the hype. And I guess it's also a bit of a shakeout to separate the real people from the flaky ones that are just here for the money.
How do you find it actually differs though? So obviously, I know we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit, being a traditional artist primarily and then tokenizing your art and growing from there, how much does it really affect your process when the market does feel a lot less positive than before?
Are you talking about my process for making art or my process for dropping it?
Just in general, really, as an artist, talk me through how much of a difference it makes when the market is as it is now compared to when we were at peak NFT hype.
Well, one thing I should say is that I wasn't a successful traditional artist before NFTs. I don't think I made it in the gallery world or anything like that. I've only had my work in a few galleries, to be honest, in the traditional art world before making NFTs. And that's part of why I jumped onto this revolution so strongly to learn. So, as early as I could, learn as much as I could about it. It was because I felt like I didn't belong in the gallery world, and I felt sort of rejected by the fine art world before NFTs. I studied as a graphic designer, and that's how I got the hang of digital tools. And I use a lot of the same processes and thinking for graphic design that I did for my clients when I approach my own art practice, treating myself as the client, essentially. But the difference between now and when I joined, which was last summer during the bear market or the bull run of summer 2021, it felt like anything was possible back then, and a lot of people came in with cash grabby tactics, just trying to play up the marketing of what could happen if you buy this. And now we've seen so many examples of over-promising and under-delivering. We've seen different networks and tokens completely collapse and different scenes kind of migrate. And I'm really glad that I've taken my time. I haven't done a huge collection and over-promised any kind of utility on my art beyond it just being sometimes physical and sometimes digital and physical, and sometimes just digital. I just like to play in that realm of just really focusing on the art, and not much has changed for me in terms of what I do day to day. It's just I'm not as concerned with getting any big collection out right now. I'm sort of in that building phase, like you said.
Nice. And you said that you weren't having much luck with the traditional sort of art market before NFTs. How has that flipped since you've been since your popularity and in NFTs has grown? Have you found it's an easier entry road into some of the traditional art stuff, or have you been avoiding that?
I think I never really gave it my full try. I never gave it 100%. Like, that wasn't my goal to become a successful traditional artist in the gallery world. Yeah. So had I put my mind to it, I feel like I could have gotten further in that pursuit. And I'm still putting my work in galleries. I just did a physical gallery show last week with nice. Greg Mike, if you know him, in Atlanta. He's an artist that makes NFTs as well. Put together like a 50 artist gallery show. So I'm still doing gallery shows with physical work that makes sense for me if it's a good vibe. And I just want to meet more people and get my work in front of more people. So, I guess the question was, how has it changed with NFTs? I hadn't sold my work for very much money before NFTs in terms of my one-of-one painted work or drawn work. I think the most was maybe $2,000 for a drawing, and then everything was mostly in that $800 to $1,500 range for my one-of-one artworks. And because of that, I had to make a lot of them, and more than I really felt comfortable doing between the gaps of my more safe projects like client work, or I have an online class that I teach. So I do a lot of different things to make money, and I never wanted to rely on my fine art to be the thing that makes my money. But then I jump into NFTs, and my Genesis, had a bidding war that ran up and went for 3.75 ETH. So, and that was during when ETH was much higher. So it made a huge difference on how I approach my fine art, how much effort I put into the one-of-ones, knowing that there might be a market of 2, 3, 4 ETH for that piece in this market, versus if I put it up on my shop, I know that the traffic isn't, historically my site traffic wasn't crazy, and it's hard to get those bigger collectors over to my shop to buy the one-of-ones. So I had to rely on a lot of prints and cards and other lower cost edition things to make money. And now I feel like I just feel more abundant. I have more savings so that I can focus on my best work.
How do you feel like, so we just scale it back because your story is definitely one of success. If I am a new artist, or an artist, let me rephrase that, approaching the NFT space quite fresh, and I want to be able to, like you said, primarily get my art in front of other people, obviously finance is great. Do you think it's still possible in the way we are right now in the market for an artist to just jump in and still develop and grow and be able to be successful?
And this is an artist that doesn't have any kind of brand online yet at all, like starting from
completely
zero?
fresh. So they understand the market, they understand NFTs, but they are just really just trying to get themselves out there now.
What's their horizon looking like? Like, are they looking for success within the first few months? Because that's very unlikely to get a large traction unless your work is that good. You're relying on network effect, basically, for it to spread like wildfire. I think artists have, and if they're at the very beginning stage, they have to realize that it's a long road to developing your brand, your name, your voice as an artist. If you don't have a lot of those things built in from the get-go, it's hard to get footing in the first year or even few years. You have to get very lucky or know people or just have work that cuts through the noise and wants to spread like wildfire. And I think banking on that as a strategy is a recipe for getting upset. If you are wondering why your work isn't going viral, and when you're only a few months into posting it, it's because you're only a few months into posting it, and you still got to work on your art, and you got to maintain that consistency, build those relationships, and slowly but surely it happens over years. I think we tend to look at those overnight success examples of why can't my work spread like that, but there's a lot of things we're missing from the picture. So I think what I would do is spend time getting to know yourself offline. Find those things that are fresh. Don't just follow the trends in the NFTs, because they come and go like a slice of like a pie of pizza on a New Yorker's dinner table. It's just gone, and then it changes the next day, and all of a sudden you don't have anything that you were really excited about making. So I think as an artist starting out, the most important thing is to get to know yourself, understand your voice, because that's what's going to have the most longevity. And that comes through iterating it, be easy on yourself, but don't try to be like anybody else. Be like yourself, get to know yourself. That's the most important skill that will take you the furthest, I think.
Nice, yeah, know your art, absolutely. And I think, how did that come about for you? What was your process there? Do you have any particular influences or mentors for your art style, people that you took inspiration from?
There's a lot of mentors that I've had over the years, and some of them were college professors, some of them were podcasters or personalities online. And I'm always taking notes. I'm always listening to uplifting creative content. I can name a few podcasts that really inspired me early on, because it is hard to find your voice as a young artist, as a brand new in a new scene. Like, how do you navigate that? How do you stay confident? I can give one tip and then maybe a couple of resources. The tip for me that helped me stay confident as an artist and get to know my voice is understanding where I'm at in the journey and kind of zooming out, being okay with where I'm at. And then putting the confidence jacket on, like this invisible jacket that I put on whenever I become EfDot. That's not my real name, It's a nickname of mine, but when I put on the confidence jacket of EfDot, I can be whoever I want to be, and I can do anything. And being able to know that that's a jacket you can put on and take off. It's not just something reserved for those with 10,000 followers or more. It's literally something that anybody can do at any point in their journey. It's just about owning it. And then the resources, I would say, for people at that step in the journey, go check out the Creative Pep Talk podcast. I think that one was had the biggest effect on my creative career. And I'm excited. I'm actually working on a podcast myself that's going to be on the same network as them.
Oh, nice.
That's a podcast. I have about 30 episodes already done. They're out there. It's called Extra Paint. But that podcast is a good listen to if you're looking for tips from me. Check out Extra Paint podcasts. I haven't put out an episode in a little while, but we'll be bringing it back soon. And then I guess one last resource would be, I think, Visualize Value, actually. Speaking of the NFT space, has been one of my favorite places to follow, even before I knew about NFTs, of how to understand, like how to zoom out, essentially, because we get so zoned in on those details as an artist that it's hard to realize the broad strokes aren't working when they're not.
I think a lot of what you, and this is just not just with our chat so far today, but any other content of yours that I've consumed, it's all about, and it comes back to the Optimist project a lot of the time. At least it feels like as a viewer of your work, which again, for those that don't know, was around your flat fire. Could you talk to us a little bit about that and how that really grew into being quite an important moment for you?
Yeah, so it was about 8 years ago now, and I don't mind sharing the story because it's been something that helps people, and I like seeing the change that it creates when I share it. So don't feel like you're prodding. It was 2014. I had my first apartment in Manhattan. I was freelancing, kind of living the dream in some weird way, like where I was just getting by, right? Freelancing. Oh my God, I can't believe it. In New York City. But then it all kind of fell apart one day when the backyard of my apartment caught on fire. It spread in through the windows while I was home, and I had to kind of run for my life out of that building before it was too late. Didn't have any time to grab anything on my way out. I just saw a clear exit and ran. No shoes on, no wallet, nothing. Like coming back into the apartment later, I wasn't sure what I would see, but I ended up losing just about everything that I owned, either damaged by the fire or by water. And what's the crazy part is I had already rewritten the story in my head. Like while I was waiting to go back into the apartment, I knew that I was going to be okay. I knew that everything comes into perspective in a moment like that, where you have your health, you know that the people you love are safe, and you know that you can rebuild from scratch. And maybe you've actually had some thoughts about what would it be like to start fresh? This is my chance to start fresh. That's how I was already viewing the situation after an hour of kind of freak out, of course, like what's happening, what's happening? Wait, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And then I go back into the apartment and I found this drawing that I had created a few days back, and it was the Optimist logo. And while I was creating that, I was thinking to myself, you know, I am an optimist. I can get through difficult things. I can make it out of a fire and come back swinging, like rise from the ashes, to be cliche. But I saw that as a sign, and I latched onto it as a message that I could share with the world, which was my plan anyway. I was going to post that online and see how people liked the artwork and maybe make some shirts from it. With that project, I ended up kind of leaning into it as a logo for a whole campaign, spreading optimism, spreading that message. And it started just by giving back items to the people who helped me after the fire, helped me get back on my feet, whether it was a t-shirt or a patch or a sticker or a pin. Like I just wanted that message out there. And I never fully started a whole t-shirt brand or anything like that. I don't actually own the word optimist, but it was a nice project for me that culminated in an art show at my apartment called the Optimist Art Show. And since then, it's been just a message that I bake into all my other art going forward. Like just being able to create, like that's got to be enough for you to get up in the morning, you know, like everything else is icing on the cake. So that helps me stay grounded, helps me stay optimistic when I'm going through difficult times.
That's awesome. It's the kind of bottom in story, isn't it? You kind of like, if you think about it in terms of like crypto charts, you bottomed out at that point with the fire, and it was the kind of launch pad that's sort of catalyzed the rest of everything that you've done. It's a cool story.
That, and it also put everything in perspective. It made me focus on what was important. It just like snaps you back into reality of like, whoa, everything I had in that apartment is gone, but I also didn't need most of that stuff. Yeah. And what was really important, right? It makes you question the things that you replace first. Like how do you restart if you did bottom out? It's a good question we should all ask ourselves, because it can happen to anybody, and I think we should be mentally prepared for it. Well, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. Yeah. Losing everything, whether physical or digital, like losing everything is really hard. but it's not impossible to come back from it. And I hope that my story is a shining example of that.
How does it feel like if you just, as you said, if you do zoom out and you look back at that timeline 8 years ago, you walk out, everything's on fire, it's all gone. 8 years in the future, you've got partnerships with people like Nike and Apple and stuff like that. And more importantly, you've got your own studio. You are literally doing what every artist would love to do, which is just create work that people appreciate. Does that feel like sometimes a bit overwhelming, or is there any moments where you kind of just realize that's mental?
There are definitely moments that stand out that I pinch myself, like, am I really living this right now, this life of working with some of the global brands that I've been getting? But I think it's always good to remember that the numbers that you see online, those likes, those shares, those comments, those DMs, those are all people individually, and the depth that you can have connecting to one person is actually, to me, more rewarding than connecting on a surface level with 100 or 1,000 people. And I like seeing the transformation when people understand my art for the first time, or they understand like abstract art for the first time. And that's why I like to work with these global brands, is because it gets my art, which is kind of weird and different than a lot of the artists you see working with global brands. It's a new angle, and I just love sharing that. I always thought that I saw the world a little differently, and I wanted to get it out there to as many people as I could. But I think when Nike called me, that was a big shocker, because that's the brand that every artist wants to work with and thinks that they'll never get it. Like I saw that, there's thousands of artists waiting to work with Nike. There's no way they're gonna select me, but it ended up happening for Air Max Day this year. So that one, I think, jaw on the floor, like, still can't believe that happened.
It's very cool.
There's a couple other ones that come to mind, but I do want to say, like, over the years, it's just been a slow, steady growth of like invest in one person at a time, build those relationships with your collectors and your fans and your clients, like very much one at a time. And one is great. One is a place to start. So I always knew that even if it's a small pool, you can still go really deep with a small group of people, and that's really meaningful to me.
Without it kind of being, I wouldn't say manipulate. Obviously, it's not a simple process, but to explain your art style and the way you put together your pieces, how would you, let's say, for example, I'm a new buyer. I've bought a couple of pieces because I've seen your work online. How would you sort of start to explain your processes, and how much would you let a buyer behind the curtain?
I'm pretty much an open book when it comes to my process. I like that creativity has been democratized over the years with physical and digital tools and online classes where you can learn basically how to do anything. And I mentioned before, I have a couple online classes through Skillshare where I do teach my process. And I want artists to pick it up. I want collectors to pick up the pen and draw something, because my work's meant to be that approachability of, it's not a cartoon style necessarily. It's kind of an abstract figurative thing. But once you practice it, it's not that hard to get started in drawing like simple figures. And I like to see people get started, even if it doesn't look great in the beginning. So I'm happy to share almost everything about the way that I make my work. I have very few secrets. And I guess like in the way that of entrepreneurialism, like or entrepreneurship, building my business, I haven't gotten a ton of that content out there of like how I would grow a business, a creative business. It's a tricky thing because I don't want to charge for that information, and I don't really want to be known for being the guy that teaches creative business. But I'm always happy to help artists if they have a business problem or they want to know how I got started with working with brands. And a lot of that information's out there, though. It's just not as interesting for me to talk about myself.
Yeah, fair.
I don't blame you. I think it's one of those things as well where, like you said, it's a very fine line between being or trying to be helpful and then coming across as being maybe manipulative of an audience, when actually it's just ultimately, if you're going to put time into something, time is money. And I wonder really, when you are at the stage you are now, where from what we can see, very successful artists with your NFT work and just generally everything else, what is your next direction? What do you want to try to achieve next?
Well, I came into the NFT space with a series of one-of-ones and then a small collection of 10. I did some additions after that, but I never really did one large collection that was a big, generous offering to sort of build my community. I felt really overwhelmed by doing that, actually. It seemed like a big risk to do. it still feels like a big risk to do. So I'm slowly working my way up to that is my goal. And I'm building, like I've been building it all along in terms of the art direction. You almost know what it's going to look like in your head if you had to picture the big EfDot collection. That's what I'm striving towards, getting that done, getting that out there in people's hands. And my goal is to get it done by November. My birthday's in November. 11/17 is a special number for me. So 11 and 17 will be kind of repeating throughout. But I don't know. I haven't leaned into the profile picture. I'm not totally closed off to making profile pictures, but that's not where I wanted to become known. I didn't want to be known for that. People don't see artists in the PFPs the same way they see them in one-of-ones, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. And I didn't want to be held to that level of scrutiny. But now that I feel like I have a bit of a brand in the NFT space, I'm leaning towards more of a collectible series, and that's my personal work. I'm still doing more client projects, brand collaborations. I'm sure you saw the Chicago Bulls list. There's a few other amazing NFT artists on that list. I shouldn't even say they're NFT artists. They're artists on that list. So I'm just honored to do stuff like that as it comes across my inbox in the meantime, and I'm building that larger collection slowly. Last thing on that is like just IRL. I'm excited to connect with people IRL next month. I'm doing my big open studio next week. It's hard to really think beyond that, to be honest. I've been making a bunch of physical work, and I'm going to have a couple screens installed as well to show the digital work. Really excited for that. I hope you guys can come.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Well, we're in NYC, so yeah, we'll definitely love to swing by and check it out. How much of your time do you split at the moment? I know that from some of your previous content and following you for a while now that you're a big fan, or personally, of doing the murals in real life. How much of your time do you get to spend doing that? Do you get a lot of those at the moment still?
I think it goes hand in hand with the skateboarding, and that was something I neglected to mention in your last question. I am leaning more and more towards like street art and skateboarding, just like my influences have been, but it's been a process for me. Like that whole street art, skateboarding vibe, it's hard to get a name for yourself in that industry, because if you don't have the brand names that have supported you, you're just another artist in the sea of street artists. Yeah. And it's hard to get those brand names if you have a skater style, because they don't always take you seriously. They want to see more buttoned up kind of professional work. These days I'm doing fewer but bigger murals, but it's still a really big, important part of my practice. And I just love to be outside. Like I don't want to be all the time in the metaverse. And I can see myself loving augmented reality when that's a little bit easier with the right pair of glasses. But I think the AR murals and just murals in general is going to stay being like at least 20% of my practice. Yeah. And it's trying to be bigger, but I'm very picky with the walls, because I don't want to paint a wall unless people are really going to get to enjoy it. And if it's a small wall, they usually don't have much money for it, and time is valuable these days with all the things I'm working on. So I'd rather do like 5 to 10 murals across the year instead of 20.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Have you done any for NFT NYC?
I haven't done any specifically for NFT NYC, but one of the things on my agenda with my event is we're going to do a little mural tour around the block, where we have a couple murals that were done over the pandemic.
Oh, perfect. That's awesome. And did you do one for Consensus recently?
Yes. That one was actually not hand painted though. I got there and it was already printed and installed with vinyl. Oh, nice. Which is not always my choice, but in that case, since it was in the hot sun in Austin, I was not mad about that at all. And it still has the same effect of being a large piece of art.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Much prefer the hand painted though when I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it allows you to. That's why you want to do the physical art side. You can. The vinyl seems a bit more like on the digital. So yeah, getting your hands dirty. I suppose you like any opportunity to do that.
I like doing both, because the vinyl murals really allow you to be in more places than one. Yeah. With murals, like I guess you could hire somebody to paint it for you, but it's not the same. If someone else is going to install my work, I would rather have them probably print it, because I know it's going to come out exactly like I wanted it, versus having them hand paint it. And I want to do the painting when I can. So I've tried to develop a style that's relatively easy to get a mural done in like a day or two. Yeah. It's not something where I'm there painting every single little brush stroke, like photorealistic imagery. Nothing against that style, but I like having I do have some sort of faster styles and some more detailed styles in my work.
Nice, nice. This is a bit of a tangent question, but just in general with your art, the way that you broke into NFTs, was there like a particular person in your life that was saying, hey man, you got to check out NFTs, or was this something that you came across yourself, or did you get plucked into it? How did that kind of happen?
Well, it's an interesting story, and I left some traces of this story on the blockchain,
nice.
So I'll take you through it. So in 2020, I started this project working with Topps, the baseball card manufacturer that a lot of people love, and they've been around for 70 years. So the cards that I collected when I was a kid, basically. Nice. Got to work with that company, and that really got me back into collecting and storytelling and creating a series of things. And you know, there was no live sports happening, so a lot of the collectors started focusing on the artists and their stats as something to look forward to every week. And it became a fun game of every 2 weeks make a new card and get it out there. But it wasn't done via NFTs. They were done via open editions of physical cards. And then when NFTs started to take off, people were asking, like, is this available as an NFT? And of course the answer every time was no, because they started the project one way. They weren't going to change it halfway through just because of the trend or the new technology becoming more in the mainstream. Yeah. But by the end of it, I had talked with a bunch of people about NFTs, and I had experience making work for collectors. It just felt like a natural transition. A lot of my audience was converting over and playing with Top Shot, or they were playing with another sports card collectible going digital. And so I left some Easter eggs of that project on Nifty Gateway for my first collection. Oh, nice. It was like a series of digital trading cards designed specifically to bring those people into the space with me and sell it, you know, in USD, make it a little more accessible. And then those also had physicals attached. So altogether, like the collection of cards that I've done will bridge myself slowly into the NFT space. And I might still do physical cards, we'll see, but I've been taking a break on that and focusing more on the NFTs. And the first platform that I joined was Foundation. I had an email chain going with the founders of Foundation for a little while, and they kind of convinced me to join, and then that was where I minted first. My first piece was actually a collab, though. Oh, so yeah. A friend of mine, Stefan Madiak, we minted our first piece together.
Nice. Do you get a lot of collab offers at the moment?
Yeah, I think every week there's at least a few people that want to do something. It's hard to squeeze in, I'll be honest. Not everyone is a great fit, whether it's the artist or their style or just the timing. But I still do love collaborating with other artists. I'm trying to figure out how I can really bake that into my monthly schedule, because if I go a month or two without doing any artist collabs, I feel like I'm missing something. I like just welcoming people into this space, and just messing around with all the materials we have here.
Yeah. That's very cool. And also just on that same line, how do you manage your time? Because I know that even just a small bit of a success in the market, you can end up getting hundreds of DMs every day from different people looking for promotion or some kind of collaboration or to come on a podcast or whatever it might be.
How do I manage my time? I think so. I'm a very ADHD kind of person where I can work on things that I'm really excited about, and the things that I'm not excited about, they tend to get procrastinated until the last possible moment that I have to do them. So I've tried to build a career for myself where I'm doing as many things as I can that I'm excited about, and then I build a team around me to help me with the details. So I have a studio manager full-time that works with me. It's pretty much necessary if you're doing a lot of physical art to have someone archiving it, photographing it, getting it, properly documented and ready. So she really helps me a lot. Nice. And I just have Google Calendar for important meetings. But day to day, I try not to schedule anything for the early morning. My brain doesn't really wake up until 10. And then I usually end up working very late into the night when I'm having a good creative day. And that's not every single day. It's maybe 2 or 3, 4 days if I'm lucky out of the week. I'll stay working really late into the studio, and that's how I get my stuff done, is when no one's bothering me like late at night. And then like the DMs, I just try my best to get back to everybody. And if I can tell it's not going to be a good fit, I just don't prioritize those messages. I prioritize the ones where I know that I either have a relationship with them already, they're a collector of mine, or I also have Chasm, who I work with stolen artists, and he helps me with some collector relations when I get really busy. I still like to make time for all my collectors, but there's a lot of questions that pop up, especially around a drop, and having Chasm and stolen artists helping me with Discord stuff has been huge.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, really important to have those right people around you. And I think all the projects that we speak to that have had that level of success always build a good, strong team that they can rely on. And the people that really struggle are the ones who try to take on too much and burn out. So yeah, super important.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the team. I wouldn't be where I am without help from people who just volunteered. Like some people just reach out to me and say, "Can I help you with this? It looks like you need help." And sometimes it works out.
Nice. So what about NFTs in general? Do you spend much time obviously that's how you got into the market. What about trading the market? Are you a collector of other people's NFTs much at all? Do you trade?
I got into trading PFPs right around when Doodles launched.
Nice.
And
okay.
So I picked up 3 Doodles when they were around 1 ETH. And so that's been my biggest trade was Doodles. And I still have one. But I took a lot of, risks. I took a lot of risks on different projects, and some of them were out of emotion. Some of them were really calculated, and I did my research. Some of them I just really like the art, but I also hope that the project grows and I'd be willing to let go of it. And then others I'm just going to keep forever because I love the artist and the art and the message. That's been the big switch for me, is I realized a lot of the art that I want to buy is not only because I like it aesthetically. It's like you're buying it for the artists. And I want to be a part of people's journeys when I look back on this in the way that they want to be. I want people to be a part of my journey by collecting. I resonate with that desire. It's a core human desire. It's just some people feel it more than others, like the desire to collect and hold on to things that, you might not even look at more than once every few months, but you want to be a part of that story. And there's at least half of my portfolio is just art, and then the minority is PFPs and different projects that I don't buy them unless I like the art. It takes a lot for me to buy a project that the art isn't good, because I'm just more, I didn't get a Goblin, for example, because I just don't really want that in my wallet, and it's too big of a risk to take on a piece of art that I might be stuck with right? So it also ran up really quickly, and so I'm very hesitant to buy anything that goes out of my like early project price range mentality.
Well, we often ask people who come on, we've got like these 5 quick fire questions that we often ask. And the first one is what your best ever trade was. So I'm guessing that's your Doodles. What about your worst ever one? Is there something that you particularly look back on and think, what the hell was I doing when I got that?
Well, I was really excited about Doodles, and there were a ton of derivative projects coming out that were doing well. And so I bought a handful of Doodle derivative projects when I saw some friends aping into those projects, and I think it was more emotional than anything. The cool thing is, like, now I can give those to people because they weren't that expensive. I minted them from the beginning. I can give them to people if I want. But there were certain derivatives where, looking back, the core IP is really the valuable thing that you want to get, not some derivative that wasn't affiliated with the project. So that was a lesson I learned. I also bought like a rug radio, a rug at the very top. There's a few projects that I bought at the top where I'm just kind of holding it. But, speaking of that one, like, I'm going to have a piece of art in the rug radio show that's next week. So maybe it was worth it. And if that piece of art sells, then I'll be coming out on top of that one. We'll see.
That's cool. And did you buy much stuff during the mint process, like pre-reveal? Have you? What's your rarest? If you do reveals, what's your rarest reveal been? You had anything special?
I got one of the Atomo kids, the original 155 collection, and I got the Chewbacca.
Oh, nice.
Nice. I wanted that.
Yeah. So I minted that. I don't usually buy anything that's pre-reveal. Like, I try to mint it, and it just moves so fast. Like, I miss those days. I'm making art. I'm doing stuff in here. Like, if there's a project coming up, I try to catch it for the mint, and if I don't catch it for the mint, I'll usually go on secondary after it reveals.
Fair. Yeah. Nice. I always like the gamble of a reveal, but I haven't done one in feels like ages now. So
yeah, there's some cool projects coming up though. I'm probably going to be minting soon. I've been, friends of mine that have slowly gotten into the space are building their first collections and doing it right, and I want to support them. Yeah.
Go on, give them a shill. What are the big ones you're looking forward to at the moment?
Okay. Well, I think a month from now there's a project coming out called Good Minds that my buddy Stefan, who I mentioned earlier, is the artist behind that, and I've been kind of helping him along the way as just a second pair of eyes.
Cool.
And that's one that's coming up. Dave Krugman, the Drip Drop collection, which is a photography collection, but it's based around rarity traits. It's the first photography collection like that, so I'm excited to mint that this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is our more controversial question. So first, the easy one. If you could pick any project and send it to 100 ETH floor, so you raise their floor price to 100 ETH, which project would you pick?
Can't be your own work, obviously. It's got to be someone else's.
It can't be my girlfriend's project either. Let's see. That's a really tough question.
You can go for your girlfriend's project if you want.
No, that's a little too expected. I'm really excited for Stefan's project. He's put a lot into that, and I've been a part of it too, like seeing it from the beginning. So Good Minds, which has a couple other cool cats involved. I just think that those types of projects that have a very strong sense of like why they need to exist, what they're there to do. That one's very much about mental health, and I support that cause wholeheartedly. And there's been a few other NFT projects that have come up around mental health, and they've donated a ton of money, but I haven't aped into any of those. The art didn't really resonate with me. This was the first one that I want to see do super well, and it hasn't even come out yet. But yeah, I think people should look into it, check out the team, check out the mission of it. I want to see Cool Cats come back from where it's dipped down to. I think they deserve a lot more. And I met the team in person. Actually, they were the ones that really welcomed me into the space at NFT NYC last year before I even had a cat. I didn't even have a cat, but they let me into the meetup, and it was just amazing. So
very cool. I just hear nothing but good things about the Cool Cats team and the community.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're kind of perplexed over here.
One more project. I want to see Elise Swopes, her Sunrise art project, because that project does not get nearly enough attention for how much change it's making and what it's doing for Black artists, and it's just so cool what she's doing. It's like sort of the Nouns format where it's like a new auction every day.
Yeah.
But the same format. Yeah, it's cool.
Nice. Awesome. And then the opposite question, which is if you could take one project and delete it, what project would you? And it better not, I guess you better not say your girlfriend's project.
No, she would not like that. And she doesn't even have a project yet, but we've been talking about making her physical art into NFTs.
Oh, nice.
But okay, a project that I would send to zero. I don't know. I think after we learned about what happened, what the Azuki founder did before Azuki, and I don't like how there's just so much money wrapped up in that project that it basically can't fail. Yeah. I don't feel like it deserves. I don't feel like it is the most like, that's not the founding team that I would want to see do well. There's so many other people that should be doing better than that project, because it was built on stronger morals and didn't come from various rugs. And I don't know. Yeah. I was a part of that space when it came out, and I want to see that project get less attention compared to some others. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. We're all about championing the good projects, the real founders over here. So yeah, no, we definitely get that, and we hear a lot of frustration about it, especially when people have invested so much money and then they find out that the sort of the back door opens and they see all the stuff that's going on, and they're like, oh right, wow, okay, didn't realize that. Yeah, it's interesting because I worked at a company, I'm sure you guys know WeWork. Yeah. Yeah, I worked there for like 3.5 years, and then all this stuff comes out about the founder. Now there's like multiple documentaries about it on Netflix, but I still got the experience that I got working there, and it was amazing. So I didn't mean to hate on the entire Azuki team or on the whole community. I'm sure that there's a lot of awesome people involved in it. It's just after that space, I left a bad taste in my mouth, and as it would if I found out a bunch of stuff about the WeWork, what was happening behind the scenes when I worked there, I probably would have left. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be a part of those projects, even if it does pad the pockets. It's just not worth it. Yeah, no, absolutely. You've got to keep your morality in this space, and it's not the easiest space to keep it in. What's like an example of a project that was completely out of left field, just like the weirdest thing, like the Madonna Beeple thing that came out? There was like the timing of it too, and just the strangest art comes out from the celebrities at like the strangest moments sometimes. I mean, there's just countless really odd. I mean, every day I'm sure there's another project that I think, what the hell is this? What the hell were they thinking of? Yeah. So
the space is full of it.
I guess it just makes a lot of sense though, doesn't it? Like the bottom line is your story is a great example of you can become incredibly successful with the right set of morals and the right artwork, right? So it makes sense that other people would look at people like yourself and others that we've had on the podcast and many people we haven't and go, there is money here, there is a route for me to be successful. And I guess unfortunately that does breed Azuki founder morals. It does breed those sorts of things. And I guess there's only so much we could really do to avoid it, save work with the right people as much and often as we can.
Yeah, I think the staying grounded in your morals is a really important part of being an artist. You have to know where you're willing to draw the line, because let's be honest, making art is not all net positive for the world. Like, you're using materials, you're using power, you're using electricity, you're using marketing tactics. You know, you have to use a lot of things that you didn't think you had to use as an artist, like getting started. And there are sacrifices, but you get to choose where you stop and where you start with those things based on your values. Nobody else. So I like that I can be an example for people. I don't want to say that everybody can follow the same journey as me and be successful. It's a very crooked path to get any kind of success as an artist. There's no straight line, even though it might look that way from the outside. It's a lot of stretching yourself in different directions and figuring out, maybe you crossed a boundary by accident and I shouldn't have worked with that client. It wasn't a good fit. But then you just constantly course correcting and getting better at your craft at the same time. It's definitely doable. It's a lot. Not everybody's cut out for it. But I do like to say that the only talent an artist is born with is the desire to create. Everything else was learned. So if you do have that desire to create, you got to follow it.
Nice. I think that's a good point to round off, I think there. What as a sort of closing statement, do you want to let us know what you guys have got going on for NFT NYC and see if anyone wants to come out and check it out?
Yeah, so this Tuesday on the 21st of June, which also happens to be Go Skateboarding Day, we're going to be having a meetup at 12 p.m. in Brooklyn. We're going to be skating and doing a little contest for some special prizes. That's going to be our outdoor event from 12 to 2. And then from 3 to 7, we're going to come back to my art studio and have a little open studio pop-up where I'm kind of debuting some original paintings, prints, apparel for the first time. So some exclusive stuff for NFT NYC. And that'll go till about 7, and then we'll see where the night takes us. But nice. I'm excited. This is going to be our second time having an event here that's open to the public. The collectors of mine will get something special, but it's going to be open, and I'm excited to see how many people show up. And then if you're around on the day before that, I'll be at NFTC, which is at the Seaport. I posted a flyer that I designed for them, which is a nice little charity auction happening. So the 20th and 21st are kind of like my days where I have concrete plans like I just mentioned. And then the rest of the event is kind of open. I'm going to be going to some other events and hopefully see some people around.
Nice. Networking. That's what these events are all about. I love the events so much. Just meeting so many people with that shared passion. Yeah,
and reconnecting with people who you saw last time, or, you know, putting a face to a name like from some online friends is so fun.
That can often be the weirdest thing, especially when people come up and introduce themselves as like their Twitter name or their Discord, which is often like something completely obscure. Like, oh, it's me, Red Donkey 67. It's like, oh yeah, hey man, how you doing? I always find that really weird.
Yeah. Well, we get to make up these names, so we got to be expected to recite them when we're called that. Maybe a good challenge to rename yourself before it's too late.
EfDot, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I cannot wait to be at your studio, hopefully in New York. So thank you so much for jumping on the episode. I've been your host, Calcio. Joining me as always, Jimmy T. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Ta-ra.